Before you close your eyes tonight, imagine standing on a lonely hillside where nothing seems unusual. The wind moves gently through dry grass, birds circle overhead, and the landscape appears almost disappointingly ordinary. But beneath your boots lies an entire city that nobody ever finished. No crowds fill its streets. No fires burn in its kitchens. No merchants argue over prices in its markets. Instead, endless corridors vanish into darkness. Staircases stop halfway to nowhere, and rooms wait patiently for people who never arrived. So dim the lights, settle into your favorite chair, and join me as we descend into one of history's quietest mysteries. Our journey begins with a single carved doorway. Hashtag Fact 1. The hidden entrance. Unlike castles or temples built to impress visitors, the entrance is surprisingly modest. It measures little more than the height of an ordinary person and blends almost perfectly into the rocky hillside. From only a short distance away, nature nearly hides it completely. Perhaps that was intentional. Builders of underground settlements often preferred secrecy over spectacle, protecting their communities from enemies, harsh weather, or unwanted attention. As you duck through the opening, daylight fades behind you with surprising speed. The temperature drops. Your footsteps become echoes, and the world above slowly disappears. Hashtag Fact 2. Someone planned everything before digging. After several minutes underground, something remarkable becomes obvious. Nothing here feels random. The corridors run with careful consistency. Their widths barely change. The ceilings curve gently overhead instead of forming weak angles that might collapse under pressure. This tells us something fascinating. Long before the first worker picked up a hammer, someone almost certainly designed the city on paper, clay tablets, or perhaps simply in memory. Entire generations may have followed one master plan. You're not wandering through a cave. You're walking through an architect's dream carved directly into stone. Hashtag Fact 3. The builders worked with extraordinary patience. The walls reveal thousands upon thousands of tiny chisel marks. Each groove represents another careful strike. No explosives existed. No power tools. Every inch required muscle, precision, and remarkable endurance. Experts estimate that excavating even a modest chamber by hand could take months. Entire neighborhoods beneath your feet may have demanded decades of labor. The city wasn't built quickly. It was patiently persuaded into existence one chip at a time. Hashtag Fact 4. Some hallways were never finished. Your lantern catches a strange transition. One section of wall appears almost polished enough to reflect light. Only a few steps farther, the surface becomes rough and unfinished. Parallel grooves remain frozen exactly where workers stopped carving. Nothing suggests they intended to quit forever. Instead, it feels as though the day's work simply ended, and tomorrow never came. Their final hammer blows still wait silently inside the rock. Hashtag Fact 5. The air still moves underground. You pause unexpectedly as a cool breeze brushes across your face. Deep beneath the earth, that shouldn't happen naturally. Looking upward reveals a narrow shaft climbing into darkness. Then another. Then another. The unfinished city already possessed an impressive ventilation system. Ancient engineers understood that hundreds, or perhaps thousands, of residents would require fresh air circulating continuously. Even centuries later, those carefully placed shafts still allow the underground to breathe. The mountain itself seems quietly alive. Hashtag Fact 6. Every pillar was once part of the mountain. Soon the passage opens into a vast chamber supported by enormous columns. But these pillars weren't carried here. They weren't stacked stone by stone. Instead, workers removed everything around them while leaving selected sections untouched. Each pillar remains physically connected to the bedrock beneath your feet and the ceiling above your head. It's a clever engineering solution. Rather than constructing supports, they simply refused to carve them away. The mountain became its own skeleton. Fact 7. An unfinished staircase leads nowhere. Along one wall, a staircase climbs gracefully upward. Its steps are evenly spaced and expertly carved. Curious, you follow them. 10 steps. 20. 30. Then suddenly, solid rock. No doorway. No chamber. No landing. The staircase simply ends against untouched stone. Whoever designed it clearly intended another level above. The workers just never reached it. Few places illustrate interrupted ambition more perfectly than stairs leading into a ceiling. Fact 8. The city was designed for many more people than ever lived there. As your path continues, you begin noticing countless empty rooms branching from the main corridor. Some are large enough for families. Others seem suited for storage. A few resemble gathering halls. The sheer scale raises an intriguing possibility. Perhaps the city wasn't built only for its original residents. Maybe its creators expected future generations to expand into these waiting spaces. The unfinished sections suggest growth was always part of the plan. It was a city designed not just for today, but for centuries that never arrived. Fact 9. The silence preserves the last working day. You kneel to examine the dusty floor. Tiny fragments of broken stone still scatter across the ground. They're easy to overlook. Yet each one fell from a worker's chisel long ago. No sweeping crew collected them. No final inspection ever came. In an odd way, these forgotten chips preserve the city's final afternoon. You can almost imagine distant tapping echoing through the tunnels as hundreds of craftsmen shape walls, smooth ceilings, and measure future rooms. Then, one by one, the sounds fade. The hammers stop. The lanterns are extinguished. The workers leave. And somehow, they never return. As you continue deeper into the darkness, another question quietly forms. If the builders abandoned so much work behind them, what exactly happened that convinced an entire city to stop digging forever? The tunnel bends gently to the left, and your lantern casts long golden shadows that stretch across the floor before disappearing into darkness. There is still no sign that anyone ever lived here. No furniture. No abandoned clothing. No forgotten tools. Only empty rooms patiently waiting for owners who never arrived. And perhaps that's what makes this place feel so peaceful. It isn't a ruined city. It's a city forever caught in the middle of becoming one. Fact 10. Many rooms were identical by design. The next series of chambers seems strangely familiar. Each doorway is nearly the same height. Each room has similar proportions. Even the corners have been carved with remarkable consistency. This repetition suggests that the builders followed standardized measurements, almost like using an ancient blueprint for every household. Uniform construction would have made expansion easier as the city grew. Walking through them feels less like exploring random caves and more like wandering through an unfinished neighborhood. Fact 11. Soft rock made construction possible. You pause to touch the wall. The stone isn't especially hard. It's firm enough to hold its shape, yet soft enough to carve using simple iron or bronze tools. Choosing the right geological layer may have been one of the city's greatest engineering decisions. Dig into rock that's too hard, and progress becomes painfully slow. Dig into rock that's too soft, and ceilings may collapse. The builders found a balance that allowed entire halls to emerge from the mountain itself. Fact 12. Excavated stone never went to waste. As millions of pounds of rock were removed, one obvious question appears. Where did it all go? The answer may be surprisingly practical. Many ancient civilizations reused excavated stone for roads, walls, defensive structures, or nearby buildings above ground. The underground city could have quietly supplied materials for another settlement while expanding below. The mountain may have been shrinking on one side while a village slowly grew on the other. Fact 13 niches in the walls may have held oil lamps. Along one corridor, dozens of shallow recesses appear every few steps. They are too small to store supplies, too high for seating, too regular to be accidental. Many archaeologists studying underground complexes believe similar niches often supported small oil lamps. Imagine hundreds of tiny flames flickering along these passages. Instead of darkness, the tunnels would have glowed with warm amber light, turning solid rock into an underground avenue. Fact 14. Underground temperatures stay surprisingly stable. You notice that the air feels almost unchanged no matter how far you walk. That's one advantage of living beneath the earth. Deep underground, temperatures fluctuate far less than on the surface. Blazing summer afternoons and freezing winter nights barely affect these chambers. Without modern heating or air conditioning, ancient people could enjoy naturally moderated conditions throughout the year. The mountain acted as one enormous blanket. Fact 15. The builders probably dug from several directions. At first glance, the corridors seem perfectly connected, but careful observation reveals subtle differences. Some walls have slightly different tool marks. Certain ceilings curve in another style. This suggests separate teams may have excavated from opposite directions before eventually meeting in the middle. The moment their tunnels connected must have been deeply satisfying. After years of digging through stone, two distant work crews would suddenly hear each other's hammers growing closer. Fact 16. Water was always a concern. No city can survive without water. Although you haven't seen a well yet, narrow channels carved into parts of the floor hint at careful planning. Rainwater may have been collected from above and guided into underground reservoirs. Some settlements even connected to natural springs hidden deep within the rock. Managing water would have required as much intelligence as carving the rooms themselves. Without it, the grand project could never have supported permanent life. Fact 17. Empty ceilings reveal future plans. Looking upward, you notice several circular outlines only partially carved into the ceiling. At first, they resemble decorations. Then their purpose becomes clearer. They may have marked locations where vertical shafts or additional staircases were intended. The circles remain incomplete. Like pencil sketches abandoned before painting begins, they preserve ideas that never reached reality. Even unfinished architecture tells stories about the future its creators imagined. Fact 18. Dust can wait for centuries. You brush your hand lightly across a stone ledge. A thin layer of fine dust rises into the lantern light before settling again. Left undisturbed, underground dust accumulates incredibly slowly. Without wind or heavy rain, particles may remain in nearly the same place for astonishing lengths of time. In some forgotten chambers around the world, footprints have survived for centuries. The stillness protects them. Here, every quiet surface seems to whisper the same message. Nothing has hurried underground. Time itself appears to move more slowly beneath the mountain. As your lantern continues forward, another corridor opens ahead. Far in the distance, its darkness hints at something larger than simple homes or storage rooms. Perhaps the city's builders had planned a place where everyone would gather. A hall so ambitious that even today, it waits unfinished beneath the stone. I've continued the narrative with the next 8-minute chapter, maintaining the slow, relaxing pacing while weaving another 9 facts naturally into the exploration. The corridor widens so gradually that you barely notice the change. One moment you're walking through a comfortable passage where your footsteps bounce gently off the walls. The next, the space around you begins to open. Your lantern suddenly seems much smaller. The light no longer reaches every corner. Instead, it floats like a tiny star in an ocean of darkness, revealing only pieces of a chamber that must have taken countless years to create. If this city had a heart, perhaps this was meant to be it. Hashtag fact 19 large underground halls required careful engineering. Creating a small room is one challenge. Creating a massive chamber without causing the ceiling to collapse is something entirely different. Ancient builders understood that every extra foot of empty space increased the stress on the surrounding rock. That's why enormous halls were often carved with rounded ceilings and carefully positioned support pillars. Even without modern calculations, experience taught them which shapes nature preferred. The mountain rewarded patience. Hashtag fact 20. Rounded ceilings distribute weight more evenly. Looking upward, you notice there are almost no sharp angles. Instead, the ceiling rises in a gentle curve, almost like the inside of a shell. This wasn't only beautiful, it was practical. Arched shapes spread pressure outward instead of concentrating it in one weak point. Many civilizations discovered this principle independently, using it in bridges, aqueducts, and underground structures alike. Sometimes geometry is the quietest form of survival. Hashtag fact 21. The pillars were left exactly where they were needed. Unlike buildings above ground, where columns are placed after construction begins, these supports were never moved. The workers simply carved away everything around them. Every pillar marks a decision. Someone long ago examined the stone and thought, "Leave this part standing." Thousands of such choices transformed solid rock into architecture. The empty spaces are impressive, but what remains untouched may be even more important. Hashtag fact 22. Tool marks reveal different generations of workers. Moving closer to one pillar, you notice the carvings aren't identical. Near the bottom, the grooves are deep and broad. Higher up, they become finer and more controlled. Archaeologists often study marks like these because changing techniques can suggest different groups of workers, or even different generations, continued the same project. A grandfather may have begun the pillar. A grandson may have refined it decades later. The city itself could have outlived the people who started it. Hashtag fact 23. Sound behaves differently underground. You clap softly. The echo doesn't bounce back all at once. Instead, it rolls through the chamber in gentle waves. Large underground spaces often produce surprisingly complex acoustics. Voices can carry extraordinary distances while becoming difficult to locate. Someone speaking calmly from the far side of the hall might sound as though they're standing only a few steps away. Silence itself gains texture beneath the earth. Hashtag fact 24. Smoke needed somewhere to escape. If lamps or fires ever illuminated this room, smoke would eventually collect near the ceiling. That's why ancient underground complexes frequently included hidden ventilation routes leading upward. You notice narrow cracks disappearing into darkness high above. Perhaps they once carried away warm air and soot. Without those invisible pathways, daily life underground would have become uncomfortable very quickly. Even fresh air required careful planning. Hashtag fact 25. The floor was never completely finished. Shining your lantern downward reveals subtle ridges crossing the stone. In some places, the surface is smooth enough for effortless walking. Elsewhere, it remains uneven. The polishing process appears unfinished. Workers probably intended to return with finer tools to flatten every remaining bump. Instead, centuries passed. Today, your boots follow the exact same rough patches they left behind. Hashtag fact 26. Builders sometimes marked future excavations. Near one wall, faint straight lines catch your attention. At first, they resemble scratches. Then you realize they form deliberate guides. Stoneworkers often marked future cuts before beginning excavation, ensuring walls remained straight and rooms symmetrical. These forgotten guidelines are like pencil marks left beneath unfinished artwork. They reveal not what exists, but what was supposed to exist. ## Fact 27. The largest dreams are often the hardest to finish. Standing in the center of the chamber, you slowly turn in a circle. The scale is astonishing. Even incomplete, the room inspires quiet admiration. Yet its unfinished edges remind you that ambition can exceed time, resources, or circumstance. Perhaps the builders believed future generations would complete their vision. Perhaps they assumed there would always be tomorrow. The mountain still holds that expectation in silence. And somewhere beyond the far wall, another tunnel disappears into darkness. Narrow again after this enormous hall, as if inviting only the most patient travelers to continue the journey deeper into the city nobody finished. As you leave the great hall behind, the tunnel narrows once again. The echo of your footsteps becomes softer, as though the mountain itself is encouraging quieter voices the farther you travel. The air remains cool. Your lantern flickers gently. Ahead, dozens of dark openings begin to appear on both sides of the passage, each one almost identical to the last. For a moment, it feels less like exploring ruins and more like walking through a neighborhood where every family simply stepped outside for a short walk and never came home. The empty doorways wait with extraordinary patience. Fact 28. Ancient builders often expanded cities one section at a time. Rather than carving an entire underground settlement all at once, most builders likely worked in stages. One cluster of rooms would be completed before another was started. As populations grew or new needs emerged, additional tunnels could branch outward. The layout in front of you seems to follow that same philosophy. Instead of one giant excavation, the city resembles a tree, slowly growing new branches over many years. Fact 29. Straight corridors made navigation easier. Many of the passages stretch surprisingly far without turning. This wasn't just aesthetically pleasing. Straight hallways made it easier to carry supplies, move building materials, and orient oneself underground. Without sunlight or landmarks, even a simple bend could become confusing. Long sight lines offered reassurance. You could always see where you had come from. Fact 30. Some rooms were left only half their intended size. You step into one chamber and immediately notice something unusual. One wall is perfectly smooth. The opposite wall is rough and unfinished. The proportions feel awkward, almost cramped. It appears the builders intended to carve farther outward but stopped midway through the process. The room exists somewhere between idea and reality. Its final dimensions survive only in the imagination of those who planned it. Fact 31. Stone dust was one of the greatest challenges. Every strike of a chisel created tiny particles that drifted into the air. In enclosed spaces, this dust could become difficult to breathe. Builders may have paused frequently to allow ventilation shafts to clear the tunnels before continuing. Some workers likely spent more time removing debris and dust than actually cutting stone. Progress underground demanded constant patience. Fact 32. Doorways were sometimes carved before rooms. At another opening, you notice something curious. The doorway itself is beautifully finished. Its edges are sharp and symmetrical. But beyond it lies only a shallow recess that quickly ends in untouched rock. Perhaps the builders carved entrances first as reference points before excavating the spaces behind them. If so, this city contains dozens of invitations leading nowhere. Fact 33. Lighting determined daily life underground. Imagine living here centuries ago. Morning would not arrive through windows. Instead, someone would light the first lamp. Evening would come only when the final flame went out. Artificial light controlled the rhythm of life. Every drop of lamp oil mattered. Every wick needed replacing. Darkness wasn't an emergency. It was the natural state of the city. Fact 34. Tiny imperfections reveal human hands. You run your fingers along one carefully carved wall. For several feet, the surface is almost perfectly flat. Then suddenly, a shallow groove wanders slightly off course. It lasts only an inch before correcting itself. That tiny mistake is oddly comforting. Machines didn't build this place. Real people did. Someone's hand slipped for a brief moment before continuing with remarkable precision. Fact 35. Construction may have continued for generations. Looking around at the sheer number of unfinished rooms, it's difficult to imagine a single lifetime being enough. Large underground projects often stretched across decades or centuries. Children may have grown up watching parents excavate chambers that their own grandchildren would continue expanding. Some workers may never have seen the completed portions of plans they faithfully helped create. Building itself became a way of life. Fact 36. The quietest places preserve the most questions. At the end of the corridor, you find one final doorway. Beyond it lies only rough stone where excavation had barely begun. The ceiling is low, the floor uneven. Tool marks cover every surface before ending abruptly. You stand silently for several moments. This room contains almost nothing, and yet it invites endless curiosity. Who was meant to live here? What purpose would it have served? Was the first hammer strike made only days before the entire project was abandoned? The mountain keeps those answers to itself. As you turn back toward the main passage, your lantern catches another tunnel disappearing deeper still. Unlike the residential quarter you've just explored, this corridor is noticeably wider. Its walls slope downward with unusual precision. It almost feels as though it was designed to lead somewhere especially important, somewhere that required far more planning than an ordinary home. You tighten your grip on the lantern and continue onward, leaving behind a neighborhood that never welcomed its first residents. The new passage feels different almost immediately. The floor beneath your boots is smoother than before, worn not by time but by intention. The walls are straighter, the ceiling a little higher, and the corridor stretches so far ahead that your lantern cannot find its end. Whatever this place was meant to become, this wasn't an ordinary hallway. It feels like a road. Not a road for wagons pulled by horses beneath the earth, but a main artery through which people, supplies, and ideas might have flowed every single day. The deeper you travel, the more you realize that this unfinished city wasn't simply a collection of rooms. It was designed to function as a living organism. Fact 37. Major corridors were built before smaller branches. Many ancient builders began with large central passages before carving the smaller rooms connected to them. Doing so created reliable access routes for workers carrying tools and hauling away debris. Looking around, you can almost picture dozens of laborers walking in both directions, passing one another as construction slowly expanded outward like the branches of a tree. Without these primary corridors, the city could never have grown efficiently. Fact 38. Gentle slopes are easier than stairs. As you continue, you notice that the floor descends almost imperceptibly. Instead of endless staircases, this section relies on a gradual incline. Such slopes would have made transporting heavy loads much easier. Dragging stone blocks, food supplies, or barrels of water uphill by only a few degrees requires far less effort than lifting them step after step. Sometimes the smartest engineering is almost invisible. Fact 39. Every swing of the hammer had to be planned. Underground excavation leaves little room for mistakes. Removing too much rock from the wrong place could weaken an entire ceiling or wall. Builders likely worked slowly, measuring repeatedly before cutting. Each hammer strike represented a permanent decision. Unlike wood, stone could not simply be nailed back into place. The city demanded confidence with every blow. Fact 40. The builders may have used chalk or charcoal guides. In one section, faint discolorations remain along the wall. Perhaps they are only natural mineral stains. Or perhaps they once marked guidelines drawn with charcoal or soft stone before carving began. Ancient masons often sketched outlines directly onto surfaces to avoid costly errors. Long after the drawings faded, the cuts they inspired remained. The plans disappeared. The results endured. Fact 41. Debris removal was a project of its own. For every room carved from the mountain, an equal volume of stone had to leave it. That means thousands upon thousands of baskets, sleds, or sacks filled with broken rock may have traveled these very corridors. Some workers probably specialized not in carving but in hauling. Construction wasn't only about creating space. It was also about making unwanted stone disappear. Fact 42. Underground travel protected people from harsh weather. If this city had ever reached completion, many daily activities might have happened entirely beneath the surface. Residents could move between neighborhoods without facing intense summer heat, winter storms, or strong winds. The mountain itself would have become both shelter and roof. Above ground, seasons would change. Below ground, life might continue in remarkable consistency. Fact 43. Small drainage channels prevent big problems. You lower your lantern toward the floor and notice a narrow groove running along one edge of the corridor. It's only a few inches wide but extends farther than the light can reach. Channels like these could have redirected rainwater or condensation away from important chambers. Even tiny amounts of moisture become serious problems over decades. Good drainage is often invisible precisely because it works. Fact 44. Ancient surveyors worked without modern instruments. Standing perfectly still, you marvel at how straight the passage remains. Its alignment continues for what feels like hundreds of feet. Yet its builders possessed no laser levels or digital measuring tools. Instead, they relied on cords, plumb lines, wooden frames, and extraordinary experience. Their precision reminds us that careful observation often accomplishes what technology merely accelerates. Patience can be a measuring instrument too. Fact 45. The main road suddenly splits in two. Eventually, the corridor reaches a quiet intersection. One branch continues downward into deeper darkness. The other curves gently upward toward levels closer to the surface. No signs point the way. No maps decorate the walls. Only symmetry suggests that both directions were equally important. You pause in the center, imagining future residents choosing one path for workshops, another for homes, children racing through the tunnels while merchants carried baskets in the opposite direction. But none of it ever happened. The crossroads was completed. The city beyond it was not. Your lantern drifts toward the descending passage. The air feels cooler there. Somewhere farther below, hidden behind unfinished walls and untouched stone, another piece of the builder's grand design is still waiting to be discovered. Part 6. The deepest level they reached. Facts 46 to 54. You choose the downward path. The slope is gentle enough that you hardly notice it at first, but after several minutes, the air grows cooler still. Your lantern flame burns steadily, untouched by wind, while the silence becomes almost complete. Somewhere above your head now lies not just one layer of stone, but many. You are walking through the deepest section the builders ever managed to carve. And strangely enough, this level feels both the most complete and the most abandoned. The walls are smoother. The intersections are cleaner. Yet the empty spaces seem even more expectant, as though this was where the greatest plans were meant to unfold. Fact 46. Digging deeper increased the engineering challenge. Every additional foot below the surface brought new difficulties. Removing stone became harder because workers had farther to carry debris. Fresh air had to travel longer distances. Lighting required more oil. Communication between teams became slower. The deeper the city expanded, the more carefully every task had to be organized. Building underground was as much about logistics as excavation. Fact 47. Gravity helped remove water. At one point you notice the floor tilting ever so slightly. It's almost impossible to detect without looking carefully. Such tiny gradients were often intentional. Water naturally follows the easiest downward path, allowing builders to guide unwanted moisture toward collection basins or drainage tunnels without pumps or machinery. Sometimes the simplest force in nature does the hardest work. Fact 48. The ceiling height changes for a reason. You suddenly find yourself ducking beneath a lower section of rock before the passage rises again. This wasn't necessarily poor planning. Builders often adjusted ceiling heights to match natural weaknesses or strengths within the mountain. Leaving extra stone where pressure was greatest could improve long-term stability. The architecture quietly adapted itself to geology. The builders listened to the rock instead of fighting it. Fact 49. Some passages were probably meant for storage. A series of long, narrow chambers branches away from the main tunnel. They're too plain for homes and too repetitive for meeting halls. They may have been intended as storage galleries. Underground temperatures remain relatively stable throughout the year, making such spaces useful for preserving grain, dried foods, or supplies. The city may have planned not only for daily life but also for difficult seasons ahead. Fact 50. Workers had to constantly check for cracks. Holding your lantern close to one wall reveals tiny natural fractures running through the stone. Not every crack signals danger, but every crack deserved attention. Ancient builders likely inspected their progress regularly, changing plans whenever weaknesses appeared. Sometimes abandoning one direction was safer than forcing the mountain to cooperate. Successful construction often depends on knowing when to stop. Fact 51. Different tools left different signatures. Near one unfinished alcove, the texture of the wall changes dramatically. Broad marks cover the lower half. Higher up, finer grooves overlap them. Stone specialists can sometimes distinguish different tools simply by examining these patterns. A wide chisel leaves one rhythm. A pointed pick leaves another. The walls become a silent record of countless working days and countless skilled hands. Fact 52. Underground cities needed constant maintenance. Even after completion, work would never truly have ended. Dust would accumulate. Drainage channels would need clearing. Ventilation shafts could become blocked. Lamp niches would require cleaning. Stone steps might wear unevenly over generations. An underground city was not something to finish once. It was something to care for forever. Fact 53. The deepest rooms were often the quietest. You stop speaking altogether. For several moments, only your breathing accompanies you. Deep beneath the surface, outside sounds fade almost completely. No birds. No wind through trees. No distant thunder. Only the faint crackle of your lantern. The silence isn't empty. It's layered. It presses gently against the ears until even the smallest sound seems unusually important. Perhaps that's why places like this inspire reflection. Fact 54. The final wall was never broken through. At last, the corridor ends. Not in collapse. Not in destruction. Simply in solid stone. Across its face remain rows of unfinished chisel marks where workers had only just begun removing material. The first cuts were made. The next 1,000 never happened. Standing before this wall feels strangely moving. You are looking at the exact place where the city's expansion stopped. Behind only a few feet of untouched rock may have waited another chamber, another street, another staircase, perhaps even an entirely new district. No one can know. The builders left before revealing their next idea. And so the mountain has guarded that secret ever since. You raise your lantern one final time before turning away. As its warm light glides across the unfinished surface, another thought quietly settles into your mind. Perhaps the most fascinating part of the underground city is not what its creators accomplished. Perhaps it is everything they intended to build, but never had the chance to finish. Leaving the unfinished wall behind, you retrace your steps until another broad passage catches your attention. Unlike the narrow residential corridors, this one widens steadily. The ceiling rises. The floor becomes unusually level. Small alcoves appear at regular intervals along both sides, each separated by almost exactly the same distance. The arrangement feels deliberate, not ceremonial, not defensive, practical. You begin to imagine that perhaps this was intended to become one of the busiest places in the entire underground city. Only now, its customers exist only in possibility. Fact 55. Ancient cities often organized space around commerce. Throughout history, settlements naturally developed areas where people could exchange goods. These gathering places reduced travel, encouraged trade, and strengthened communities. Even underground, planners may have expected residents to meet in central districts rather than rely on isolated households. A successful city needs conversation almost as much as construction. Fact 56. Regularly spaced alcoves suggest planned use. The openings lining the corridor are remarkably consistent. Each is deep enough to hold shelves or storage jars but too shallow for comfortable living. Uniform dimensions often indicate standardized functions. Perhaps every family would have occupied one space on market days. Perhaps traveling merchants would have displayed pottery, bread, cloth, or tools. The mountain may have been preparing for voices that never echoed here. Fact 57. Underground storage protected goods. Food and supplies stored beneath the earth benefit from naturally stable temperatures. Without direct sunlight, many items remain usable longer than they would above ground. Grain, dried fruit, oils, and ceramics could all have been protected inside cool chambers. Long before refrigeration, the earth itself provided quiet assistance. Fact 58. Builders likely planned for population growth. Standing in the broad avenue, you notice that it seems larger than necessary for the handful of nearby rooms. This hints at forward thinking. Urban planners often create infrastructure capable of serving future generations rather than only current residents. The city may have been designed for thousands who never arrived. Its empty spaces represent optimism carved into stone. Fact 59. Flat floors required extra labor. Unlike rough excavation, producing a level walking surface demanded repeated smoothing and careful measurement. Even slight bumps could make transporting heavy baskets more difficult. The remarkable flatness beneath your boots reflects countless hours of additional effort after the main carving was complete. Sometimes refinement takes longer than excavation itself. Fact 60. People navigated underground using memory and landmarks. Without windows or changing scenery, orientation becomes surprisingly difficult. Residents may have memorized distinctive pillars, unusual intersections, carved symbols, or changes in ceiling height to guide themselves. A particular bend in the corridor could become as recognizable as a familiar tree or church tower above ground. The architecture itself may have served as a map. Fact 61. Good planning reduced congestion. The width of the avenue allows several people to walk side by side comfortably. This extra space may have prevented bottlenecks during busy periods. Builders who expected crowds had to think not only about structures but also movement. A city succeeds when people can pass one another with ease. Even silence follows invisible traffic patterns. Fact 62. Stone records tiny signs of wear. You kneel and hold the lantern close to the floor. Near the center, the surface appears slightly smoother than at the edges. Perhaps this happened naturally during construction as workers repeatedly followed the same route. Even before a city opens, its builders leave subtle fingerprints through habit alone. The path remembers those who walked it. Fact 63. The grandest plans often exist only in fragments. At the far end of the avenue stands a wall unlike any you've seen before. Its surface has been partially shaped into a decorative frame. The center remains untouched. No inscription was ever carved. No relief sculpture completed. It is an empty canvas waiting for artists who never arrived. You linger for a moment, imagining the announcement that might once have greeted visitors entering the city's central square. Instead, all that survives is possibility. The unfinished frame quietly reminds you that history is full of projects interrupted not because imagination failed, but because time, fortune, or circumstance changed course. As you continue onward, another staircase emerges from the darkness. Unlike the one that ended beneath solid rock many passages ago, this staircase curves gently out of sight. For the first time in your journey, you cannot immediately tell whether it reaches another level or another unanswered question. You step onto the staircase with careful footing. The stone beneath your boots has been worn smooth, not by centuries of residents climbing up and down, but perhaps by the patient workers who carried baskets, ropes, chisels, and lamps while the city slowly took shape. The stairs curve gently to the right. There is no rush. No sudden revelation, only the comforting rhythm of one step after another. When they finally end, you arrive in a circular chamber unlike anything you have seen before. The room is almost perfectly symmetrical. At its center lies a wide shaft disappearing into darkness. You lower your lantern over the edge. The light falls, and falls, and falls, then vanishes. Fact 64. Underground cities could not exist without reliable water. No matter how impressive the architecture, every settlement depended on one essential resource: water. Without a dependable supply, even the grandest underground city would have remained empty. Builders often selected locations near aquifers, underground springs, or places where rainwater could be collected efficiently. The choice of mountain mattered as much as the skill of the masons. Fact 65. Wells were often dug before homes. It might seem natural to build houses first, but experienced planners understood otherwise. Before people could move in permanently, they needed drinking water. Many ancient communities established wells and storage systems before completing residential districts. Life followed water. Everything else followed life. Fact 66. Circular shafts are naturally strong. Looking down again, you notice the opening is perfectly round. That shape wasn't chosen for appearance alone. Circles distribute pressure evenly, reducing weak points that could develop into cracks. Whether in ancient wells or modern tunnels, curved forms often prove more durable than square ones. The builders may not have used engineering textbooks, but they understood what experience repeatedly taught. Fact 67. Rope marks sometimes survive on stone. You run your fingers across the rim. The edge feels slightly smoother than the surrounding rock. Repeated contact from ropes carrying buckets or construction materials can gradually polish stone over many years. If such marks truly formed here, they hint that this shaft may already have served workers long before the city itself was finished. Sometimes tools leave behind the only signatures their owners never intended. Fact 68. Water storage required extraordinary cleanliness. Nearby, shallow basins have been carved directly into the floor. If they were meant to hold drinking water, keeping them free of contamination would have been essential. Even in ancient times, Communities often understood that stagnant or polluted water led to illness. Clean reservoirs could mean the difference between prosperity and disaster. Invisible dangers have shaped history as much as visible ones. Fact 69. Underground temperatures reduced evaporation. One advantage of storing water beneath the earth is that far less escapes into the air. Cool, stable conditions slow evaporation dramatically compared with open reservoirs exposed to sunlight. The mountain quietly protects what it shelters. Its stone walls conserve not only warmth and silence, but precious moisture as well. Fact 70. Every drop had to be carried or collected. Without electric pumps, moving water required effort. Buckets, ropes, clay jars, and patient labor accomplished the task. Children might have helped. Families may have developed daily routines around collecting fresh supplies. Even if the city had been completed, much of ordinary life would still have revolved around simple physical work. Technology changes. Basic needs rarely do. Fact 71. Builders often planned for emergencies. The large size of this chamber suggests something beyond ordinary convenience. Communities facing droughts, sieges, or harsh winters frequently design storage systems with extra capacity. Preparing for difficult years was part of responsible planning. The unfinished city may have been intended not merely to survive good times, but to endure bad ones too. Its architects seem to have thought far ahead. Fact 72. The deepest wells often hold the greatest mysteries. You lean over the opening one final time. Your lantern's glow disappears into blackness long before reaching the bottom. Perhaps the shaft was completed. Perhaps it was only partly excavated. Perhaps water waits somewhere far below. Or perhaps solid stone still blocks the way. No one standing here can know with certainty. The darkness keeps its own counsel. You gently step back and let the silence settle once more over the chamber. Somewhere beyond the circular room, another passage disappears into the mountain. This one is narrower. Its walls bear faint outlines where future doorways were only sketched but never carved. It is almost as if the builders paused in the middle of imagining an entirely new district. And for the first time since entering the underground city, you begin to suspect that what remains unfinished is even larger than what was actually built. Leaving the great well behind, you enter the narrow passage. At first, it seems almost disappointing. The walls are rough. The ceiling has not yet been fully smoothed. The floor is uneven beneath your boots. But after only a few minutes, something catches your eye. On the left side of the tunnel, shallow lines have been scratched into the rock. Not random marks, but neat outlines that resemble door frames. Farther ahead, another set appears. And another. It slowly becomes clear that you are walking through a place that existed first as an idea. The builders had begun sketching an entire neighborhood directly onto the mountain itself. Fact 73. Ancient builders often marked future rooms before excavating them. Rather than carving chambers one by one without a plan, many construction teams first outlined walls and entrances. These guide marks allowed supervisors to check spacing and symmetry before labor-intensive excavation began. Here, the mountain still preserves those first tentative decisions. It is as if someone drew the city's future with a giant pencil and simply never returned to finish the sketch. Fact 74. Layouts needed to anticipate structural loads. Planning underground meant thinking in 3 dimensions. Every proposed room affected the strength of the rock surrounding every other room. Leave too little material between 2 chambers and the ceiling might weaken. Leave too much, and valuable space would be wasted. The distance between these faint outlines suggests careful calculations, even if they were made only through long experience. Fact 75. Surveyors probably used strings and plumb lines. The remarkable alignment of the markings hints at surprisingly simple tools. A tightly stretched cord could establish a straight reference line. A weighted plumb line could indicate perfect vertical direction. Using little more than gravity and patience, skilled workers achieved impressive accuracy. The mountain offered resistance, but physics remained a faithful assistant. Fact 76. Construction was likely divided into specialized roles. Not everyone on the project would have carried a hammer. Some people may have measured. Others sharpened tools. Others removed debris or transported supplies. Experienced foremen probably coordinated teams to prevent different groups from interfering with one another. Building an underground city required organization every bit as much as strength. Fact 77. Stone can reveal the order of work. You notice that certain walls have been roughly flattened while nearby ceilings remain untouched. This sequence may not be accidental. In many excavations, workers first established basic wall positions before refining ceilings and floors. Reading unfinished surfaces can be like reading sentences with missing words. The clues are incomplete, yet the meaning slowly emerges. Fact 78. Every tunnel changed the mountain's internal balance. Removing rock also removed weight. Each new corridor subtly altered how pressure moved through the surrounding stone. The safest builders learned to adapt continuously. Rather than forcing the mountain to match their expectations, they adjusted their plans whenever conditions demanded. Flexibility was part of survival. Fact 79. Tool maintenance was essential. Chisels dull surprisingly quickly against stone. Blunt edges require greater effort and produce less accurate cuts. Construction sites therefore needed places where metal tools could be sharpened or replaced. Although no workshop appears here, the scale of the project almost guarantees that skilled metalworkers played an important supporting role. Without them, excavation would soon have slowed to a crawl. Fact 80. An unfinished city still tells complete stories. At first glance, abandoned projects seem defined by what they lack. Yet archaeologists often learn just as much from incomplete work as from finished monuments. Unpolished walls expose techniques usually hidden. Half-cut staircases reveal intended expansion. Guide marks preserve planning decisions erased elsewhere. Failure to finish can become an unexpected gift to future observers. The city whispers most clearly where it remains unfinished. Fact 81. Hope is sometimes carved into architecture. Eventually, you arrive at a broad wall where dozens of doorway outlines stop all at once. Beyond them lies untouched stone. No chambers. No corridors. No hidden halls. Only the mountain waiting patiently for hands that never returned. You stand quietly before those silent sketches. It is difficult not to imagine the optimism that once filled this place. Someone expected these doorways to lead to bustling homes. Someone believed children would one day race through these passages carrying baskets, laughing as they disappeared around corners. The plans were real. The future simply chose another path. As your lantern turns back toward the completed tunnels, a faint current of cool air brushes past your face. It seems to come from somewhere unexpected. Not from ahead. Not from behind, but from above. Somewhere overhead, hidden within the mountain, another network of shafts may still connect the forgotten city to the surface world, quietly carrying fresh air through passages that have not welcomed permanent residents for centuries. You pause where the cool breeze touches your face. It is so faint that, had you been speaking, you might not have noticed it at all. But in the silence of the unfinished city, even the smallest movement of air becomes a companion. You raise your lantern and look toward the ceiling. At first, there is nothing. Only smooth stone disappearing into shadow. Then, slowly, a narrow opening reveals itself. A shaft so perfectly blended into the rock that it almost seems natural. It climbs upward beyond the reach of the light. Somewhere, many layers above, It must meet the open sky. The city, though unfinished, still breathes. Fact 82. Fresh air was one of the greatest challenges underground. Long before electricity and mechanical fans, underground builders had to solve a simple but essential problem. People need air. Without constant circulation, smoke from lamps and fires would gather, oxygen levels would slowly fall, and enclosed chambers would become uncomfortable. Ventilation was not an afterthought. It was one of the first systems any successful underground settlement required. Fact 83. Vertical shafts created natural airflow. The builders may have relied on a principle now called the stack effect. Warm air naturally rises. As it escapes through higher openings, cooler air is drawn in through lower entrances. Without moving parts or machinery, the mountain itself becomes part of a giant natural ventilation system. Nature quietly performs the work. The architects simply gave it a path to follow. Fact 84. Narrow openings helped protect the city. The shaft above is surprisingly small. That may have been intentional. A narrow opening reduces the chance of debris falling inside while making the surface entrance difficult to notice from a distance. Fresh air could enter freely. Intruders might never realize an entire city existed below their feet. Sometimes invisibility is the strongest defense. Fact 85. Carving straight up required exceptional skill. Excavating a vertical shaft through solid rock demanded remarkable precision. Workers could not easily see the surface. They had to maintain alignment over many meters while preventing collapse. Even a slight deviation might send the tunnel off course. Looking upward, you gain a quiet appreciation for the patience such work required. Gravity offered no shortcuts. Fact 86. The walls preserve tiny traces of ancient smoke. Holding the lantern close to one section, you notice a faint darkening near the ceiling. Minerals can stain naturally, of course, but similar discoloration in other underground sites has sometimes been linked to centuries of smoke from oil lamps or cooking fires. If that is true here, then at least part of the ventilation system may once have been tested during construction. The builders themselves may have stood exactly where you are standing now. Fact 87. Air shafts could serve more than one purpose. Besides supplying fresh air, vertical passages might admit daylight to upper chambers, help regulate temperature, or even provide emergency exits. One carefully placed opening could solve several problems at once. Ancient engineers often favored elegant multipurpose solutions. Nothing was wasted if it could perform two jobs instead of one. Fact 88. Quiet air carries sound in unexpected ways. You remain completely still. For a brief moment you imagine hearing something. Not voices, not footsteps, just a faint whisper moving with the breeze. In deep underground spaces, sound can travel through ventilation shafts in surprising ways. Wind crossing distant openings may create tones that resemble distant conversation. The mountain occasionally sings to itself. Fact 89. Maintenance would have been constant. Even the finest ventilation network could not remain perfect forever. Bird nests, fallen leaves, loose stones, dust carried by the wind. All would eventually block narrow passages unless someone climbed up to clear them. Had the city been completed, entire teams may have spent their days inspecting and maintaining these hidden lifelines. Invisible work often keeps great systems alive. Fact 90. Some of the best engineering is almost impossible to notice. You lower your lantern one last time and continue walking. After a few dozen steps, the breeze quietly disappears. Without deliberately searching for it, most visitors would never know the shaft existed at all. And perhaps that is the highest compliment an engineer can receive. When something works perfectly, it often feels as though nothing is happening. The city does not announce its cleverness. It simply continues breathing in silence. As the corridor bends once more, the walls ahead become unexpectedly smooth. Gone are the rough guide marks and unfinished surfaces. Instead, a broad rectangular opening emerges from the darkness. Its proportions suggest importance. Its craftsmanship suggests ceremony. For the first time since entering the mountain, you begin to wonder whether the builders had planned not only a place to live, but also a place to gather, celebrate, and remember. The rectangular doorway is unlike any entrance you have passed before. Its edges are carefully squared. The ceiling above it rises just a little higher. Even the walls seem more polished, as though generations of stoneworkers devoted special attention to this place. You step through quietly. Your lantern reveals a chamber so broad that its far side remains hidden in darkness. There are no carvings of kings, no statues, no decorations celebrating victory. Only empty space, waiting for purpose. It is difficult to avoid the feeling that this room was meant to become something important. And yet, like so much else in the city, it was left waiting. Fact 91. Public spaces often reflected a city's priorities. Homes provide shelter. Roads provide movement. But gathering places create community. Across many ancient civilizations, builders devoted enormous effort to halls where people could meet, discuss problems, celebrate festivals, or make collective decisions. The scale of this chamber suggests it was intended for more than private use. Someone imagined crowds here. Fact 92. Wide chambers required careful sequencing during excavation. A room this size could not simply be hollowed out all at once. Builders likely removed stone in carefully planned stages, leaving temporary supports until surrounding sections were complete. Only after enough material had been shaped safely would unnecessary rock be carved away. Patience was part of the engineering process. Fact 93. Symmetry made spaces feel orderly. You slowly turn in a circle. The walls appear balanced. The distances from one side to the other seem nearly equal. Humans naturally respond to symmetry, often finding it calming and pleasing. Long before formal mathematics described these preferences, experienced builders understood that balanced proportions created harmonious spaces. Even unfinished, the room feels remarkably peaceful. Fact 94. Light would have changed the entire atmosphere. At present, your single lantern illuminates only a small circle around you. But imagine dozens of oil lamps placed throughout the hall. Warm reflections would ripple across smooth stone surfaces, pushing shadows into the corners while creating a soft golden glow overhead. The chamber would have transformed completely. Architecture often depends as much on light as on walls. Fact 95. Empty walls leave space for endless possibilities. Unlike temples decorated from floor to ceiling, these surfaces remain almost blank. Perhaps paintings were planned. Perhaps carved reliefs. Perhaps woven textiles would eventually have covered portions of the stone. The unfinished condition leaves every possibility open. Sometimes absence allows imagination to do the decorating. Fact 96. Stone floors can last for thousands of years. You glance down at the remarkably solid ground beneath your feet. Properly carved bedrock resists rot, insects, and many forms of weathering that damage wood or brick. Entire generations could have walked across this surface with little visible change. The builders may have expected their work to outlive them by centuries. In many ways, they were correct. Fact 97. Construction projects sometimes outgrow their original purpose. Large undertakings often evolve while they are being built. New ideas appear. Communities expand. Leaders change. Plans become more ambitious. An underground city begun as a refuge might gradually become a permanent settlement, or a modest network of tunnels might slowly transform into an enormous civic project. Architecture records changing dreams as much as fixed intentions. Fact 98. The most valuable resource was skilled labor. Stone itself was abundant. Time was not. Every finished wall represented thousands of careful decisions made by experienced hands. Training a master stoneworker could take years. Losing even a few skilled craftsmen might significantly slow an entire project. The city's greatest investment may never have been its rock, but its people. Fact 99. Sometimes a city is never truly abandoned. You stand in the center of the Great Hall and extinguish your lantern for just a moment. Darkness surrounds you completely. The mountain becomes silent once again. Yet the place does not feel empty. Every unfinished doorway, every rough toolmark, every staircase leading toward future rooms still carries the intentions of those who carved them. In that sense, the builders never entirely left. Their plans remain embedded in the walls themselves. You relight the flame and watch the chamber return piece by piece. The city may never have welcomed its intended citizens. But centuries later, it still welcomes curiosity. As you quietly leave the hall behind, one final corridor stretches ahead. It is neither the largest nor the grandest path you have followed. Instead, it leads gently upward toward the faintest suggestion of daylight. Perhaps it is time to return to the surface. And perhaps, before you climb those last few steps, there is only one final fact left to discover. The simplest and most enduring mystery of all. Why did the digging stop? The corridor rises so gradually that you hardly notice the climb. Your lantern casts familiar shadows across walls that now feel almost comforting. After hours of wandering through silent neighborhoods, unfinished staircases, empty halls, forgotten wells, and breathing shafts hidden inside the mountain, you know the city better than you ever expected. It no longer feels like a maze. It feels like a place that was waiting for someone to walk through it slowly. The air grows slightly warmer. Somewhere ahead, the faintest hint of daylight begins to soften the darkness. You are approaching the entrance once again. But one question has followed you through every tunnel. One question has lingered behind every abandoned toolmark and every doorway carved only halfway into the stone. Why did they stop? Fact 100. No one knows exactly why the underground city was never finished. For all the clues left behind, the mountain keeps its greatest secret. Perhaps the builders ran out of resources. Perhaps political power changed hands and funding disappeared. Maybe an earthquake damaged part of the excavation. A drought could have forced the workers elsewhere. Disease might have reduced the population. Trade routes may have shifted, making the project unnecessary. Or perhaps a safer location was discovered before the final stages could begin. History offers many possibilities. Certainty offers none. And that uncertainty is part of the city's quiet beauty. The unfinished walls invite every generation to imagine its own ending. You reach the narrow entrance and pause one last time before stepping outside. Behind you stretches a hidden world of corridors patiently carved by human hands. Thousands upon thousands of careful hammer strikes transformed an ordinary mountain into something extraordinary. Not because it was completed, but because it wasn't. Every rough wall reveals the process. Every abandoned staircase preserves ambition. Every uncarved chamber reminds us that even the greatest plans depend on time, fortune, and people whose names have long since faded. Above ground, the evening breeze moves gently through the grass. Birdsong replaces echoes. The warmth of the sun touches your face after hours beneath cool stone. Looking back, the entrance appears almost invisible again, blending naturally into the hillside as though the mountain has reclaimed its secret. Travelers pass by without noticing. Rain falls. Seasons change. Generations come and go. Yet somewhere below, the unfinished city waits exactly as you left it. Its empty rooms never grow impatient. Its pillars never complain. Its silent corridors continue leading toward places that exist only in abandoned plans. And perhaps that is the most peaceful thought of all. Not every story needs a perfect ending. Some stories remain suspended between dream and reality, preserved forever in stone, inviting quiet minds to wander through them one gentle step at a time. So as your own journey comes to an end, imagine setting your lantern carefully beside the entrance. The flame flickers once, then fades. The darkness returns to the tunnels. The mountain takes one slow, silent breath, and somewhere deep below your feet, the underground city nobody finished patiently waits for another curious traveler to discover it all over again.